Back to you, Lars.
Thank you very much to Jim Gossett, our parody guy at jimgossett.com, or on our website, larslarson.com, where you're going to find our quick poll question for tonight as well. And on the phone with me right now is Chris Tucker. Chris, we've been hearing the president talk a lot about drilling for natural gas, and I know he tries to make the right kinds of noises at the right kinds of times, but can we count on his promise that he's actually interested in drilling for more natural gas?
Well, Lars, he talks a lot about natural gas. I think it remains to be seen whether he understands that we actually have to drill for it.
He just thinks it naturally occurs and comes down a pipeline somewhere?
Well, I don't know. I'm not entirely sure what he thinks, but I do know that we don't shake trees to get natural gas. We actually have to. We need a drill bit. We need to put it in dirt. We need to drill for about a mile and a half. We need to go look for it. And it's not an easy process, but it's one that especially with all these what are called shale plays coming online. These deep rock formations, a mile and a half deep. A mile and a half underneath the ground. I mean, it's really putting forward the potential here of 150-year supply of natural gas, and that's going to accomplish a lot of goals from the economic side, environmental side, all the way through. But it was a nice statement he made this week, and he followed it up actually yesterday in India. Apparently, the United States government is going to be sending some money over to India now to promote shale gas exploration over there and transfer the technology needed to do it. So. Hopeful that this is going to be a sort of an about face from this administration, but we'll have to see. I mean, the deed's going to have to prove it.
Should we be happy about the idea that we're going to do technology transfer to India so they'll know how to better build the stuff than we do and can do it less expensively and then sell it back to us, or what?
Well, I don't know. I don't think that we should have an issue with the technology transfer. Maybe we should have an issue with the actual distribution of taxpayer funds to do it. I think that would be an argument to be made. But listen, shale is everywhere. This shale we're talking about now, it's in Texas and Oklahoma and Pennsylvania, even out west, and then of course in Canada and Mexico and Sweden and South Africa. There's the shale exploration activities going on in Poland right now, and in Argentina. China's involved in this thing, and now India as well. And so. Hey, I mean, it's everywhere. We have this massive supply of natural gas. It's, again, as I said, going to create a lot of jobs, a lot of revenue, and for folks that are worried about climate and carbon, it's going to do it in a fairly not in a carbon-intensive way at all. So, there's something for everybody here, but we have to recognize that we actually drill for this, and if that's how we get this natural gas. And so, it's on one hand, it's nice to see some positive statements come from the administration. On the other hand, every time we try to produce, we try to develop. We do run into a lot of roadblocks on the federal level, especially with the EPA. So hopefully there's going to be an alignment in Washington, and we're going to see some consistency here with the policy.
All right, but do you think that, I mean, when the president makes these statements, do you think he realizes that you're then up against a regulatory bunch of hurdles where you have to get past all the environmental statements and the design and everything else to get to the point where you can actually put that drill bit in the ground? Do you think he has an appreciation for that?
Well, I don't know. It's a lot of the hurdles we deal with, obviously they're on the federal level, but even on the state and local levels. I mean, you don't put up a stop sign without having to go through a 3-year environmental review. That's just how it works through what's called the NEPA process, the National Environmental Policy Act, which was passed during the Nixon administration. And so we have plenty of different hurdles to surmount here in order to produce. I think if he is serious about natural gas and he is serious about the way that we're going to go ahead and go get it and deliver it to consumers, then he's going to have to get smart on this issue, just like a lot of folks have had to get smart on it. And he's going to have to make a statement here, not only to the American people, but to his EPA, and tell his EPA, hey, listen, this is a technology we need. This is a supply of resources and of energy we need, and let's go ahead and promote this thing, and then do a little bit more promoting it. Well, we don't even need to be promoted. Just get out of the way. We know how to do this. We have the technology. We have the people. We have the ingenuity of the workforce. We could do it. Get out of the way. And maybe if he just lets us do that, he'll be surprised at the results.
I'm talking to Chris Tucker from Energy in Depth. You want to tell people what the group is about?
Sure. Yeah, we're a group that was formed by the IPAA, the Independent Petroleum Association of America. It's the small mom and pop producers, the folks that drill 90% of the wells in America, the folks that just do the upstream component. And we were formed a couple of years ago to make sure that EPA, we keep EPA honest, hold them to account, make sure that folks in Congress aren't putting forward bills that are going to try to shut us down. So we're based in Washington, and we're here talking about shale, and we're talking about the potential of natural gas, and it's a transformational thing, and nothing this transformational has ever happened without picking up a couple of opponents. So we're doing our best to debunk those folks, and we think we have a pretty good story to tell.
Chris, I'm on your side on this one. I'd love to see us drilling for more oil and gas and coal and building nuclear plants and a whole lot of other things that the Obama administration is not behind. But let me ask you about a concern I have. I've noticed that even as the environmentalists are demanding the shutdown of big coal-fired electrical plants, which are about 50% of America's electrical grid, and we understand there have been some windmills brought on board and the problems with them because you can't store the power and you can't do a lot of things. But at the same time, when people say, well, then we're going to have this spinning reserve of power to make up for when the solar panels aren't working and the windmills aren't working and all the rest of this, then I hear the same environmentalists who griped about the coal plants saying, well, when it comes to natural gas, in terms of CO2 that's emitted into the atmosphere, natural gas and coal aren't any different. It's different in particulates, but we're still unhappy that you're putting CO2 in the air. And to me, it sounds like anything you burn is going to be fought by the environmentalists. But they're not going to fight the natural gas fight till they're done killing every coal plant in America.
No, I think that's right. And unfortunately, you have a segment of the population out there, and I think it's frankly pretty small. I think when you look at the environmental movement, and I'll put that in quotes, it's a movement with all chiefs and no Indians. It's a group of about 50 people sitting in a room and really directing the operations nationwide. And unfortunately, you do have a segment of that group that's very much opposed to any fossil fuel, and really looks at wind and solar as something that could actually supply baseload power for the American public. That's ridiculous. Wind is an intermittent source. Solar is never going to produce enough to actually meet any kind of serious demand. From the wind perspective too. I mean, you have to understand it. Fine, bring on as much wind as you like, but you need a power source that's going to actually kick in and supply power during the times when people need it, like during the day and at night and peak times. Wind. The funny thing about wind, it blows when folks don't need it. It blows overnight. So even with the wind, you need something to back that up. That's going to be natural gas. And so, I think you're right. I think there is a segment that sort of looks at this thing. And let me just say quickly, the folks that are against nuclear and that are on the environmental side, to me, it's really tough to wrap your head around that. If you're concerned about carbon and you oppose nuclear, to me, at that point, you're a bit of a charlatan, because that's just those two statements are incompatible. I feel the same way about natural gas, and unfortunately, there are segments there that just look at this thing and say, you know what? Maybe we shouldn't be producing this resource. We just need to be living simpler. We just need to be using less. And of course, these are the same folks that live in 10,000 square foot homes.
Quickly before we break, speaking of 10,000 square foot homes, should it be viewed as good news that the Chicago Carbon Exchange has closed for good?
Well, I think that was inevitable, frankly. I think you're seeing the same situation in the Eastern Seaboard. A lot of folks don't know, with the death of cap and trade in Congress, there is a cap and trade program currently in operation in the Northeast United States. It's called the RGGI system, Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative. And, if you're a power plant in the Northeast states, excluding Pennsylvania, but all the way up through New England, you have to buy credits and trade them in the whole deal. Now, the funny thing about that is that the credits are, no one's actually taking this system seriously. And the top ceiling level that was established, the cap is going to be reduced. I'm sorry.
I just got to warn you, I'm up against the clock, but I appreciate it. Chris Tucker from Energy in Depth. Glad to have you with us. You're listening to Compass Media Networks.
The Lars Larson Show.